Okay, I'm right back with another video. It's 11:57 a.m. I'm still real thirsty. I don't have a headache right now, but I'm very, very thirsty. It's like I can't seem to get enough water. I think a little dehydrated. So I'm doing everything I can to get as much water as I possibly can. I was thinking about the 99-cent store. Since I mentioned that video, I haven't been able to find the same lemons, at the 99-cent store. So maybe they got wise and just removed them from the shelves altogether. I did see some other lemons that were available, but they weren't the same sun-kissed lemons that were being offered for the big, 7 lemons for $1.99, which is a really good price because lemons are very expensive. I mean, they're just ridiculously expensive. So they didn't have those. So, I like to have lemonade or, lemonade mixed with iced tea as an alternative to water. So I drink water in that little mixture. It's just something that kind of keeps me going. I think lemons are another thing that kind of boosts the mood at times. It's good for you. So anyway, I was mentioning in my last video this morning about my feelings on interracial relationships. Now, I'm not against interracial relationships. I'm just saying that people shouldn't be naive when going into interracial relationships. When I was younger, because I really didn't understand the huge issue of relating to racism, I would say I would have supported. I did support it. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I just figured people are people, and why shouldn't you be with someone that you like, right? It makes sense. Okay, it really does. It makes sense. If you like someone, why not be with them? But the thing is that there's a lot of issues, inbred, how should I say this? Hardwired beliefs and thoughts and belief systems that are within the white community that is very difficult for a lot of white people to overcome. They tend to think, I'm not saying all white people, but a lot of them do, they tend to think that they have a certain sense of superiority about them, and it's just ingrained in them, okay? It's in everything that they've ever seen, okay? Even down to the cartoons that we watch, okay? So they have this sense of arrogance about them. And so, I didn't understand all of that when I was younger. And so, I didn't see anything wrong with it. So, if somebody asked me out and I thought they were nice, I would go out with them, whatever. My first boyfriend was a white person. And I personally just think, as an adult, as of understanding the whole issue relating to racism, and then also I was married to a white person as well, that I don't believe that it is against nature to be in an interracial relationship. And why? Because if you can produce offspring with that person, then obviously it doesn't go against nature. Because if there was something, if it was supposed to be against nature, there would be biological things in place to prevent that from happening. Like, you might be able to have relations with a person of another race, but you would never be able to produce offspring. It obviously, okay? There's nothing in the Bible that says that you can't. The only issue in the Bible is that you had to belong to the same faith, okay? So there really isn't anything spiritual or, I believe, biological that should say that you should not be in an interracial relationship. The issue is that it's more of a political issue than it is anything else, which has a very strong influence on people, and so I've met a lot of white people throughout my life, okay, and some I were kind of friends with or whatever, and I've known them or whatever, but I have noticed that this is something that they carry inside of them, and if a white person is not able to understand the Black experience, the things that we have to live with every day, the things that we go through, okay, and really express any sort of concern about it, okay, to take it seriously, that we're not making it up, or they want to dismiss it, or they don't understand it, or they're not willing to understand it, because sometimes you bring these sort of things up about things that really happen to you, and white people want to shut you down because they feel as though their race is being attacked. It's not about that. This is a reality, okay? The very fact that my white ex-brother-in-law could go and get me blacklisted or manipulate my employment in the manner that he did, okay, and then be taken seriously for it and completely disregard my word shows you that this sort of white influence and this white behavior is quite prevalent in society, okay? So it's not something that we're making up, okay? And I can honestly tell you throughout my entire life, going to school and working, that racism is a fact and a reality of life, okay? But if you found somebody, like if you found another person of another race, and you are able to live in an environment where these sort of issues aren't always going to be, you know, you're not going to have to deal with these sort of issues, which I personally think is almost impossible, you know, and then if they're able to understand your situation and most importantly support you in your struggles, you know, actively support you in your struggles, okay? Like obviously if you are with somebody and you're telling them these things are going on, then as somebody who loves you is going to take an active role, play an active role in helping you, okay? And also being able to show some sort of humility and understand that this isn't about trying to create racial conflict. This is about somebody that you're supposed to love and you're supporting them. It is a reality. These people aren't making these stories up. They're not trying to stir the racial pot. This is a fact of life. Okay, and oftentimes when white people are dealing with the problems of their black friends or their black lovers or whatever, then they think, well, this is a racial divide and I have to take the side of my white people, you know, and they do. They, by default, this is what they do. And so I don't see how a relationship could really exist because of that reason. It's not because I don't believe that it's against God, because I don't believe it's against God. The reason why we have so many different races is because races are basically, a lot of races are sub-races of other mixed people, okay? So obviously it exists. It's always going to exist. It was always there, okay? But the issues are because of their inability to understand. Also, I know that sometimes white people date outside of the race because they tend to fetishize women of other races or people of other races. Like some white women like black men because they have these idea that these are like gods in bed, you know, or they're more well endowed than white men or whatever. I've heard all of it, okay? I've heard all of it. But that's not love, okay? Some people want to have this because they're curious as to what it's going to be like to be have sexual relations with a person of another race. I remember hearing a white man tell me one time that he always wanted to be with an Asian woman. This is so ridiculous, and please forgive me if this sounds crude, but he told me that he wanted to be with an Asian woman because he thought that their vaginas went the other way. Like, I still laugh at this when I hear this or I think about this because it was so absurd. And please, I don't want to offend anyone, but this is what he said, you know. And it was like, well, this is not a relationship. This is not about loving somebody, caring about somebody. It's about, you know, some of it is just people are fetishizing people and they become desirable objects to them, okay? And if you're going into a relationship with that in your mind, well, then there's no way, it's not even remotely possible that you're going to be willing to understand what people are going through on a daily basis. Like, you know, if this woman was experiencing some sort of oppression or whatever, what does he care? All he wants to do is his little experiment on saying which direction her vagina is, you know. It doesn't make any sense, okay? So I'm just saying is that, you know, for me, you know, I choose not to be involved. I don't want to get married. I've already said this before, okay? And so some people say, well, don't you want a black guy? I have nothing against black men, okay? Obviously, when I was younger, I did know that there was a difference between me and a lot of other black people. Like, for example, you know, I speak proper English, you know, I have different habits or whatever, but I'm still a black person. But, yeah, I do find black men attractive, okay? And I think they're just as attractive as white men. You know, I can say that some people used to talk about Denzel Washington. Yes, Denzel Washington is a very handsome person. I also always thought that Will Smith is a very good-looking man, okay? I think of all the best-looking black men that have ever existed, in my opinion, even since I was a little girl. Now, I don't know if I ever expressed this to my family or not, but I remember, of course, this is a little bit before my time, okay? I remember seeing pictures and, of course, old footage of the Temptations, the lead singer, David Ruffin. I always thought he was gorgeous. I think, when I look at people like him, I think he's beautiful. He's got this beautiful black skin that's all smooth, and he's got that glasses, that nerdy look, but he was really a very talented person, and he had extreme confidence, okay? I loved his confidence, all right? But yeah, he was a little arrogant though too. I mean, he was extremely arrogant. So arrogant that they got tired of his shit, right? But still, he was someone that I thought was good looking. Actually, I think he's the epitome of good looking when it comes to black men, all right? But I prefer my little space. I like being alone. And some people think, well, you take care of yourself. You're a decent looking person. I can't understand why you don't. I don't want to share my space. I like being alone. I like my quirky ways about me, and I do realize that those moments of infatuation, like when you first meet somebody, those are very intense, and then it starts to inspire you to want to live with this person, and then after a while you're like, okay, those feelings aren't as intense as they were, and it's infatuation. Love is a completely different thing, and marriage and blending families and being in these, like, I don't know, what do you want to call it? It's an institution. It's a union. You know what I mean? That doesn't appeal to me. Okay, it doesn't. Especially at this age. Now, if I was still wanting to have children, I probably would, get married. But I'm older now, and I don't want it. And I just feel as though what I want are friendships. Now, speaking of friendships, I'm going back to the David Ruffin thing. Now, in real life, if there was a person like David Ruffin, he and I would have so many laughs. I could imagine myself being with somebody like that, just talking and laughing. And I remember having a black neighbor many years ago that he would come over and he would have me on the ground. And then, of course, I'd have to tell him to get out because he was starting to get on my nerves, okay? Because you can only be in my house for so long before you have to get out. That's just how it is, right? But I would enjoy having a friend like that. I'm happy with my life. Trust me. I'm very happy with my life, with the exception of my retarded relatives getting into my personal life, But back to the interracial relationships. I think that, over ideas of this unrealistic belief in romance sometimes can take people into a completely different direction and make them lose sight of really what their overall happiness is, okay? I believe that people should just be people, but I also realize that racism is an issue, and it's something that people can't sweep under the rug. And you can't change somebody who's been indoctrinated with an idea that they are almost like gods. It's almost impossible. There are some white people who do understand the black experience, okay? But even, like, for example, even Tim Weiss said that even though he understands it, he's somebody who actually stands up for the black community, okay? And he's a white man, okay? But even he said, because he's so indoctrinated, that he even sometimes has issues when it comes to not thinking that he has more rights, more privileges, more whatever. He knows that he does, okay, because society has laid it out to be that way, okay? We are living in a very oppressed society. It's reality. Don't tell me that it's not true, okay? I've experienced it firsthand, okay? But he deals with this inner demon of that sense of superiority. He's being realistic. He's a very honest person. He is very honest about his feelings and his struggles and his understanding about knowing what is right and wrong. He knows it's wrong. He knows he didn't deserve this particular position. Okay? He knows he the only thing that he has in his life that's going right for him is his white skin. He knows it. And he knows that it gives him certain advantages. He realizes this, okay? And he realizes that those particular advantages that he has been given just because he was born white, that it's not fair, okay? But he knows deep down inside that he's willing to step over somebody if he has to. That's how real his expression is. He understands just how deep this whole thing goes, okay? So you have to fully understand what is out there, why people are the way that they are, okay? And if somebody is, maybe somebody's like Tim Weiss or something who understands these sort of things, and sometimes people really do have, very rare people, those diamonds in the rough, some people do have the ability to put their arrogance aside, okay? Very humble people, okay? And maybe they'd be willing to be in a relationship, with another person, and it would be okay, okay? But you still oftentimes have to deal with, the outside world, okay? You have to use your own discretion on that issue. I'm not against interracial marriages. I'm just saying is don't walk into it blindly, all right? Because, they might be nice to you, okay? But they might love you in a way that is very destructive, okay? They could easily be able to dominate you. I personally think my sister Tanya is dominated by her husband, and just because he's white, he gets certain privileges from her, over her, and he uses them, and he probably abuses her for that reason. He thinks he can abuse me. Well, fuck you, dude, you can't. All right? But anyway, that's my stance on it, okay? I still hold my worldview. I don't believe that anyone is better than anyone. I will never believe that, I will always hold that belief, because I believe it to be true, okay? I've seen too many examples of people who think that they are somebody and they really aren't, okay? But, I also have to understand that there are situations in place that there has been a lot of brainwashing and propaganda, to idolize the white race. I'm not a fool, okay? So, with that in mind, you have to be very, very careful about that. So I didn't want people to think that I'm against anyone. I'm not. My goal here. See, I was reading this book, and they were describing this particular person as spiritual. Okay, I'm a spiritual person, and they were talking about how this particular person was never interested in politics. I'm not interested in politics. I'm too spiritual to be happy with politics, okay? And I don't believe politics and spirituality go hand in hand. They're completely different from each other. I'm a peaceful person. I feel like I'm here to walk this earth to observe people, to gain an understanding of other people. That's my spiritual mission, and when I look at people, I don't see them as different. I understand their experience is different, but I don't believe that we're different. Like, I really don't. But I do believe that here on earth, which is the devil's domain anyway, okay? This is the devil's domain. This right here, this earthly space, as a group of people in a society, that it's impossible to ever have peace. It's not meant to be. It is meant to be hell on earth, okay? Our joys, our true joys, lie in another dimension, heaven, whatever you want to call it. But, but while we're here on earth, we have to have our moments of joy, and those moments of joy are what we decide them to be, not what other people decide them to be. And sadly, even in the United States, sometimes we have to fight for our rights, our freedom, even though it's supposed to be a country that's established for that. We still have to fight for our freedoms. We have to constantly, push forward, of all the demonic people and all their stupid influence. We have to push forward and assert ourselves and take our right positions in life, and that's just how it is, okay? But it's not a fun job doing it, all right? It's not. I'm not a person who is behind any particular race agenda. Some people might think that I'm pro-black or whatever. I'm not pro-black. I'm a black woman. I fully understand the experience. I understand the struggle. Nobody's making this shit up. It is obviously in place, okay? It is there. It is real, okay? It is very real, all right? I'm just somebody here on earth that's trying to get through this system until it's, of course, my time to go and die, basically, And so I try to enjoy, the things that I like in life, on this earthly plane, which to me is trash. And I like to indulge in my little crafts. I like to do certain things. I like to read, make clothes, collect earrings, stuff like that. Those little things, those joyful things, okay, in life, to escape what is out there, okay? And I encourage everyone else to do the same. I'm not against people's lifestyles. I'm not against people's belief systems. I'm here to get by and observe. And also, by observing, to know that this is not what I want in life, so I can avoid certain paths, okay? That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to get involved in politics. To me, politics is a waste of time. It will always be a waste of time. You can't fix something that's been in place for thousands of years, okay? It's always meant to be chaotic. It's just how it is. So anyway, that's my thought on interracial relationships. And, you know, I don't want people to think I'm against them. I'm not. I'm just saying is, you know, use your head. I'm going to wrap up this video. Be back with another video sometime later. I'm going to get some more water at the store. Maybe I'll try to get some lemons. And I might get some limes, because I know that limes, even though they're similar to lemons, they're a little bit easier on the throat and help me with my dehydration issue. Anyway, I'll be back with another video some other time. Have a great day.